Hey everyone, Alodar here. Today's video is about my thoughts on why I think the re-release of classic vanilla World of Warcraft could be coming out much sooner than previously expected. We can all remember back to November the 3rd, 2017, back to when they first announced classic World of Warcraft. We were all in a state of shock, joy, and absolute surprise, kind of were all wrapped up into one. What many of us had hoped for so long was finally going to actually happen. Gamers, streamers, YouTubers, the entire community was in an absolute state of ecstasy, and we couldn't wait to get our hands on this game that we'd missed so much.
When they started talking about ice cream, I'm not gonna lie, and they got to like vanilla, dude, I lost it. I just started.
Did you see they announced classic service?
We're doing that at the end. We agreed we were going to do that at the end.
I just want to make sure you knew.
We promised to wait.
Okay,
We'll
I just want to let you know.
In a little bit,
Okay.
but first let's actually talk about.
Done a lot.
Oh. So, all right, let's just do it. Let's talk about legacy servers. We've been waiting for a little while to talk about legacy.
The only thing that we could think of is when. When are we going to finally get to play? Everyone was guessing dates. People were guessing anywhere from a few months to a few years away. I personally guessed November the 23rd, 2019, which just happens to be the 15-year anniversary of the original launch of vanilla. As it turned out, it was actually a few months earlier on August 26th, 2019. Our joy didn't stop there. Oh no. We were desperate for any information we could get our hands on and exactly how true to vanilla the game was going to be. Theories were running rampant all over the internet, and then at BlizzCon 2018, a tidal wave of information was released by Blizzard, which seemed to open up the door for even more questions. But I also remember the second I got to sit down at one of the computers at the show, where they had a very early version of the game loaded up for anyone to play. And my god, did it feel smooth. After playing on private servers for several years with a 160 millisecond ping, this was so nice. Obviously, this was just an early version of the game, but you could already see how close to vanilla it already was. And beta, when was beta going to be? Would we all get into beta? For those of us lucky enough to play beta, we were once again sent over the moon. I felt just like a little kid who got his favorite toy under the Christmas tree. Now, was beta perfect? No, but you quickly realized why Classic was so important to us as players, came together, and you could immediately see the community we felt was missing in both retail and in other games. But that has now come and gone. Classic Vanilla World of Warcraft came to an end on June the 1st, 2021 with the launch of Classic Burning Crusade. Now I know there are Classic era servers which Blizzard actually charged people money to copy their characters to, but let's be honest, that's a scam to talk about in another video. Now let's get to the point of the video. As you're watching this video, I want you to quickly consider if you think Classic is likely coming soon. And after watching this whole video, let me know in the comments section what your opinion is and if your opinion possibly changed over the course of the video. I also don't have any concrete evidence, such as Blizzard coming out and saying, hey guys, the game is being released, but instead I can only provide evidence based on Blizzard's current situation and past actions. But I want to first clarify a few things. First, up until about a few weeks ago, once it became clear to many players that they were not having anywhere near as much fun in TBC as they'd hoped, and kind of missed Classic, I'd been asked repeatedly during my stream when I thought Classic might be relaunched. My response had consistently been unlikely for at least a year until after TBC's launch date, so roughly May or June of 2022. Lately, however, my response has changed, and I'll get to that in a bit. Secondly, I don't want to pretend here to have any sort of inside knowledge. I'm simply going based on my previous experience in both the financial world, having worked in investor relations departments, financial markets, and past history with Blizzard. No, I'm not talking about in business. I've just played their games for years, like most of you, and their decision-making, or sometimes lack thereof, has become incredibly predictable. As far as my past employment in investor relations, I've sat in meetings very similar to the calls Blizzard has quarterly. And although gaming wasn't the type of companies I was focused on, reading these reports, although for many extremely boring, are something we can all do. When you see that the company has net revenues of $579 million one quarter and then $483 million the next, you'd be able to put the pieces together to understand a good reason for that. Also, in case there is any confusion, keep in mind as I present these slides that net revenue is self-explanatory. Operating income is basically the gross profits of the company before interest and taxes, and may more accurately show how profitable the company actually is. I will try to go over the financials as quickly as possible. I'm really not trying to get you to fall asleep during my video. Keep in mind that the reason for pointing out the financials is to explain where Blizzard's thinking is coming from and helps us, through a better understanding, guess what Blizzard's next move may be. Thirdly, it's no secret that I'm a diehard Classic fan. So much so that I can say without question it is easily my favorite version of the game. But before you say, oh, this is just wishful biased thinking, let me say this. I don't actually know that I care if they re-release Classic Vanilla. I'll get to why later, but I suspect that there are many people in the same boat as me. Little hint, it's likely not what you may be thinking, but it does revolve around a reason that Blizzard might be dropping it sooner than later. I'm also not a hater of retail. In fact, I would love to love that version of the game again one day. Although Shadowlands is the first expansion I never bought, I do pay attention to it in hopes that I will be excited enough to play retail again in future expansion. There are several reasons that we can look at which would give us good reason to suspect that Blizzard may look to relaunch Classic World of Warcraft, so let's get into them. Number one, it's no secret that Blizzard has had a very tough year. I'm not going to go over all the allegations of harassment and general mistreatment of employees. Obviously, this type of behavior is gross, so I'll just leave that there as my opinion. You've also likely seen video after video regarding the issue, so going over it again will be nothing new. There had even been reports by at least one Blizzard staff that since the allegations, Blizzard has basically stopped all development on World of Warcraft. Sadly, the tweet that mentioned this is now unavailable. It also appears that for some reason I am now not following this Blizzard employee. That's okay though. I'm sure that a Blizzard employee isn't upset that I retweeted his tweet. I mean, I love it when people retweet my tweets, so it's obviously just some sort of mistake. That's alright, I'll just refollow him. Oh wait, that's pending. I'm sure he'll accept though. Anyways, back to the topic. My point, however, is that with all the negative PR that Blizzard has been getting lately, they need something positive. Blizzard right now, I believe, will do anything to try and take people's minds off of all of the negative. If it could have gone bad, it probably has with Blizzard. TBC launched, but has seen a bit of a drop off in players, and many just raid logging now if they're still playing. Retail's patch 9.1 took many months too long to release, and it's been an absolute disaster. And if you want to go back even further, Shadowlands itself has been a massive disappointment, and further back still, Warcraft Reforged. Simply, Blizzard needs something to go right for them for a change, and the only thing that's hit it out of the park was the launch of Classic World of Warcraft. Now, Classic World of Warcraft wasn't perfect. It did certainly have its flaws, but overall it was extremely positive for the company. And right now, Blizzard needs a massive shot of positivity to help it rebound from a public relations nightmare. Relaunching Classic WoW won't solve their PR blunder, but it will give people something positive to talk about. Number two, we're going to talk about Blizzard's financial reports, but for the sake of simplicity, these numbers are rough estimates since we don't know the exact details of sub counts for World of Warcraft. We can only estimate based on the reported revenue in their financial statements. It won't be exact, but we'll do the best that we can. I also want to get through this quickly as well. Yeah, this stuff can be very boring, but it does help drive the point home, so attention please just for a moment. Financially, as reported by many other YouTubers, Blizzard is taking a huge hit. And we can see this with a very quick examination of the quarterly results that are released publicly. When we take a look at Blizzard's 2019 net revenues, in the quarters leading up to the launch of Classic, we can see that Blizzard's net revenue is $384 million in quarter 2, and slightly higher for quarter 3 with $394 million. Keep in mind that during this third quarter, Blizzard was still bleeding subs with Battle for Azeroth, so this number would have been lower than the $384 million of quarter 2, but something allowed them to save face. With under a week left in the third quarter, Classic World of Warcraft launched on August 26. Blizzard saw so many people reactivating their subs that with just a few days left in the quarter that ends on August 31st, enough revenue was generated to boost Blizzard's numbers and spin a positive for the quarter. This is where things get truly impressive for Classic and how much it did for Blizzard. When we examined further, Blizzard's net revenue for the fourth quarter jumped to $595 million, over $200 million increase in net revenues. Impressive as Classic WoW basically had no cash shop or game sales to boost revenue beyond monthly subs. Assuming that even more people were jumping from the BFA ship to play Classic and that the overwhelming majority of the additional $200 million in net revenues was from people reactivating their accounts to play Classic. With simple math, we can see that it is very likely that Classic had on average of around 3.5 to 4 million active accounts on average per month over the fourth quarter. If you want to compare this to the quarter after Shadowlands launch, net operating income was only up about $18 million on average per month. Now, this is, of course, a rough estimation as we do not know the exact financials of products such as Overwatch and Hearthstone, or their coming and going of players, or how many people are paying for 6-month subs instead of month to month. Again, we do the best that we can with the math that is presented to us. Classic was simply the last time that Blizzard hit something out of the park, and we can say this even knowing the flaws the game had with queue times, bugs, and in particular bots, which trust me, I'll get into that in my next video. Still, during the first quarter of 2021 at BlizzCon Online on February the 19th, and already seeing the growing discontent to Shadowlands, Blizzard announced Classic Burning Crusade to be launched on June the 1st. Now, why is this date significant? Well, there's two reasons. First, with the dwindling numbers for Shadowlands, it allows Blizzard to launch another exciting version of the game to help boost subscriptions, which by the way would be included in their second quarter, which ends at the end of June. We also now know that even with the launch of Classic TBC, Blizzard revenues were still down over $50 million for the quarter due to continued sub-cancellations of retail players. You can also see why something like the character boost was included as something to help revenues for the quarter. And the second reason the game was launched on June the 1st? Well, we'll get to that in a moment in part 3. It has now become clear that subscription rates are still falling. For those of us still playing TBC, it's also clear that more and more people are just raid logging. Although TBC is a fun enough game, it's very clear to everyone that it's not as popular as Classic, so it may soon be time for yet another boost for the sub count. Blizzard has shown that they like to release items at specific dates to push up the reported revenue to make their financials look better each quarter. This could help us realizing when Blizzard may re-release Classic. Let me show you a quick example of how much Blizzard focuses on their quarters. We all remember the massive layoffs of 800 people back in 2019, and their operational income reported during that quarter was only $55 million. Operational income is basically the company's net profits before interest and taxes. If we consider that those 800 employees were laid off halfway through the quarter, with an average salary of, let's say, $50,000 a year, again, we're just estimating here, you can see that had those employees kept their jobs for the remaining month and a half of the quarter, Blizzard's net operating income would have been closer to $40 million. It's ironic that this type of attitude, rather than concentrating on releasing great products regardless of when it's ready, is a big part of what's biting them in the you-know-where. Being more concerned with releasing content to appease their shareholders actually affects the quality of their product. Driving away players and long-term certainly affects revenue in a negative way. However, it appears that Blizzard's approach for the short-term gain rather than long-term, almost like they are trying to milk this product for whatever is left. And now number 3. Blizzard's history towards other MMO development companies would be best described as particularly hostile. With any game that they feel is competition, Blizzard will do whatever they can to keep their customer base. I'm not saying it's wrong, Blizzard just has a long history of deliberately scheduling their launches, specifically of major patches, around other games' big releases. They've been doing it to Final Fantasy XIV for years now as they've tried to slow the rise in the game's popularity. There are now, however, other big titles on the horizon, including the launch of the highly anticipated New World, now set to launch on September the 28th, and it's clear that Retail's patch 9.2 will be nowhere near ready, and at this point Blizzard has nothing set to release at the same time as this new major competitor. And sorry Diablo fans, Diablo 2 Remastered isn't going to crack a dent in New World's numbers. I wouldn't be surprised to see Blizzard wait on the next patch for TBC until as close to New World's launch as possible, so you can look for that release sometime in September as well. For further evidence, remember back when everyone was complaining that patch 9.1 was taking absolutely forever? What could possibly be taking so long? Well, back on June the 13th, Amazon Game Studios finally announced when their closed beta for New World was going to be. Finally, just a few days later, I'm sure after they had time to ponder, Blizzard announced their patch 9.1 release date. Now, although it wasn't on the exact same date, it almost feels like Blizzard deliberately waited until Amazon made their announcement and then proceeded to launch patch 9.1 as late as they could. Keep in mind, the patch was already several months later than expected. Once again, this feels like Blizzard is making decisions for financial reasons rather than for their customers. I also mentioned in part 2 that Blizzard had a second reason to schedule their launch of TBC on June the 1st, and that was very likely because of the highly anticipated Ashes of Creation Alpha 1 test, with no NDA for the first time, which was already scheduled to launch on the same day. Now, I know that Ashes of Creation is a minimum of at least 2 years away, but once again, Blizzard decides to release product either on or very close to another competitor's content release date. This one being particularly significant as it was Ashes of Creation first time that they allowed content creators and streamers to participate and stream on Twitch and YouTube as the NDA had been lifted for the first time. This was going to be a massive advertisement for Ashes of Creation, and Blizzard was going to do whatever they could to stomp that out. Once Blizzard announced the launch of TBC on June the 1st, Intrepid Studios, the developer of Ashes of Creation, then announced that they were pushing back the alpha testing to July and fully admitted that some of the reason had to do with the TBC launch date. Now remember back to the beginning of the video that I stated that I was a die-hard Classic fan. However, even if they announced the game being re-released again coming up, that I wasn't sure that I was going to play or even care. Well, this is for a couple reasons that I'll mention here. First, with Blizzard's refusal to do anything serious about getting rid of bots, I'm honestly just not sure that I want to play Classic again. I'm also not sure that I'd be happy with changes they seem to be considering making. I simply don't trust them to do anything right anymore. Secondly, I'm really pumped for New World. I actually am sitting here and I can't believe I'm saying this. 2 years ago, there was no other game in the world that I wanted to play but Classic. But Blizzard's attitude about fixing specific issues like bots, plus how much fun I had playing the New World beta, actually has me kind of not even caring about the relaunch of Classic. I can't say that I won't play it, but I can't say that I will either. What I am positive about is that I know in my mind that Blizzard's lack of quality is driving me away. I'm obviously not the only one. Blizzard has been losing subs for years, but right now feels different. The number of people leaving to play other games seems to be at a much higher rate than before. Also, the essentially free advertising Blizzard has been getting on streams as some of their top content creators are moving away from the game also seems to be at a level never seen before. With everything that I've mentioned previously, they're a rough year in terms of lawsuits and employees stepping forward to talk about the terrible working conditions, revenue numbers taking a hit, and finally other games that are looking to make a big splash in the market. I can see Blizzard looking at all of these issues and when deciding what they can do to help fix these issues, thinking to themselves that relaunching Classic might be a good idea as many people have already been making their wishes known. Now, I want to be perfectly clear. I do not think that relaunching Classic is going to fix Blizzard's problems. I don't even think Blizzard thinks that. Blizzard is looking for something positive for their company for a change. They know that relaunching Classic is going to get rid of the lawsuits, but there will be people who feel good about playing a Blizzard game again. Blizzard already knows that down the road they will also have Wrath of the Lich King, which I'm sure that they are also helping will be positive for their company. But it's in my opinion certainly much further away than Classic. Classic would be an easy positive. The software is ready, servers would just need to be put up and a date announced. They could probably do this at any time, and for these reasons that I've already talked about in the video, I think it will happen much sooner than previously anticipated. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion of what Blizzard could do and only time will tell. Anyways, that's it for me, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I would greatly appreciate a thumbs up as it really helps with the YouTube stuff. And for more content, please consider subscribing to the channel as I will be making many more videos in the future. You can also catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Alodar. Bye for now.